Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today's Countdown to Columbia webinar is hosted by Columbia Housing. We'll be presenting an overview of move-in for transfer, combined plan, and exchange students. This webinar will be recorded and posted on the Countdown to Columbia website for on-demand viewing if you're unable to stay for the whole presentation. Now that it seems that we have about all the participants that are going to be here, we'll go ahead and get started. So on today's agenda, we'll start by introducing the team members from our department who are here and what our department does within the Columbia community. We'll then take you through the logistics of the move-in process, including dates, packing tips, a step-by-step overview of what to expect and how to arrive, as well as some resources for parking in New York City. The presentation will close with a reminder of important to-dos, other helpful information as well. Then we'll open the presentation up to questions. You may submit questions at any point during the presentation. Some questions may be answered over the chat, while others we will select for a live answer so that everyone can hear that. Next, we'll go ahead and tell you who's here. And since I am chatting away, I'll start with myself. My name is Menli Mansu, and I'm the Executive Director of Operations and Systems here at Columbia Housing. And my must-have move-in item, just to get everyone started and into the mode of getting ready to move in, is packing cubes. I love them because they keep everything organized and they make me happy inside.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lorena Prosco. I am the Executive Director for Housing Services and Student Center Operations. My must-have item for that I would bring for check-in would be a Swiffer mop. I just like things tidy in my room, so that's what I would bring.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mia de Luis Sayas. I'm a manager of housing services, and I think everyone really needs a really big umbrella for those rainy New York days.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Justin Cottrell. I'm an assistant director for housing systems here. My one item is a good pair of headphones. It just helps you focus, kind of shut out the noise, so that you can just focus on the things you need to.
Thank you, Justin. So now let's talk about Columbia Housing. Columbia Housing provides on-campus housing for all eligible undergraduate Columbia College and engineering students. Our portfolio includes more than 30 buildings with a variety of amenities and layouts. We manage the physical, buildings, and student assignments process and partner with Columbia Residential Life, who oversees community building and in the residence halls. Now, as I am sure you're all aware, check-in is almost here. So let's review the arrival date logistics. We're so excited to meet you and welcome you to campus. Transfer, combined plan, and exchange students will arrive on Tuesday, August 27. You may select your arrival time in the housing portal. If you have not already done so, please complete these steps so we know when to expect you. All important dates for check-in and beyond are available on our web calendar, which you can see by scanning the QR code on their screen. Now, since Manly likes packing cubes so much, he will go over some packing tips.
Thanks, Lorena. Now, before you all arrive, you'll need to do some packing and planning. So please remember that your room is fully furnished and the space is limited for additional items. We recommend that students settle into their space before making any big purchases. This gives you an opportunity to determine if you really need those additional items. Another helpful resource is our What to Bring video. The video outlines some must-bring items as well as items that could be purchased from local stores after you've arrived to campus. You should also know that some items are prohibited in the residence halls. The most common prohibited items that we see are coffee makers, candles, extension cords, and e-bikes. If you watch the video, you'll see our recommendations for alternatives to these prohibited items. You can learn more about what to bring and see our full list of prohibited items by scanning the QR code at the bottom of this slide. Now, we'll go back to Lorena so she can talk about what to expect at check-in.
Thank you, Manly. So this is an overview of what you can expect when you arrive on August 27th. The first step is to arrive at the selected time. As I previously mentioned, this action can be completed in the housing portal. Step number 2 is to complete check-in at your assigned station. This is really important. Your check-in station may not be at your building. On the next slide, we will go over check-in station locations. The check-in station is where you will pick up your Columbia ID, which in most buildings, it will function as your room key. So it is important to complete this step first. Please make sure to bring a government-issued ID, like your driver's license or passport, to the check-in station. Each check-in station also has moving bins available to rent to help you transport your items from your car to your room in one go. Step number 3 is to proceed to the building and room. And step number 4 is to complete the survey and the room condition report, or RCR. The RCR records the condition of the room and furniture when you move in to avoid any charges for damages when you move out. We strongly encourage you to not skip this step. At this time, you'll also be prompted to take a brief survey about your experience. We read all the feedback we receive in the survey and use it to improve the check-in process. And the final step is to unpack and settle in. Next, Manley will review the check-in station details.
This map here shows us the check-in stations and the bin rental locations for Tuesday, August 27th, when you all arrive. Please be aware that all of the check-in stations and bin rental locations will close at 1 p.m., except for the Hartley Hospitality Desk. As you can see, your check-in station may not be located at your building, so please review this map carefully. We have 4 check-in locations for this day: 619 West 113th Street, Carlton Arms, Hartley Hall, and Ween Hall. We have more buildings and check-in locations, so please make sure to pay attention to this map and to scan this QR code if you need more information. As you can see on this map, there's a star and a bin for each of those check-in locations. And when you come to New York City, you'll find that it's a city of bright lights and stars, but this is the star you'll need the most when you first arrive. So follow this star and we'll welcome you home. Now let's talk about renting a bin. Bin rentals will be available at every check-in station to help you move your belongings. They are free to use, and we strongly encourage you to respect the 2-hour time limit and to be courteous to other students, as a failure to return the bins within that time may result in fees. You will need a non-Columbia ID to rent the bin. This can be a driver's license, a state ID, or a passport. Please return the bin to the rental station when you're done. You can learn more about bin rentals by scanning the QR code below. Now we'll go back to Lorena so she can tell you what to do if you're not able to arrive on time.
So we know that not everybody will be able to get in before 1 p.m. So check-in stations and bin rental locations will close at 1 p.m. to provide students with a chance to settle into the room before the new student programming begins. However, if you arrive after 1 p.m., you will need to check in at the Hartley Hospitality Desk located in Hartley Hall, regardless of the building where you live. Please be aware that if you arrive after 1 p.m., you may miss the new student programming hosted by your school. Now, let's talk about the most common question we receive. Manley, where can I park?
Well, I'm not sure. No kidding. So welcome to New York. As everyone knows, it is a very busy city. So we share this neighborhood, the Morningside Heights community, with thousands of neighbors, and they are also car owners and city residents. So metered parking and non-metered parking is available on nearby streets, but parking in New York is first come, first served. While there may be parking at your check-in station, you may be able, it would only be temporary, and you'd have to park the car there for a little bit, unload the items into a moving bin before you go on to find more long-term parking somewhere else. As an alternative, you may want to consider parking in a local garage. The resources listed here can show you garages in the neighborhood around Columbia and may allow you to compare pricing and check availability. But please be aware that none of these garages or parking resources are affiliated with the university, and they're provided here as a courtesy only. We recommend that students and their families make a parking plan before arriving to campus. So please scan the QR code and take a look at the list of the local garages. Now, we want to take you through some important reminders and to-dos before you get to campus.
So important is to plan to arrive at the time you selected. Be sure to find your check-in station on our website. It may not be at your building, and you will need to go to the check-in station first so you can pick up your Columbia ID. The Student Mail Center will open at 1 p.m. on August 27. If your shipped items arrived before August 15, they will likely be in your room when you arrive. Items that arrived after the package pre-delivery period ended will be available for pickup at the Student Mail Center or at a satellite location. You'll receive pickup instructions from the Student Mail Center. And if you haven't done so already, we have 2 important to-dos. Please select a check-in time in the housing portal. Students should also plan to have property insurance coverage, either through their families, homeowners insurance, or a separate renter's insurance policy. You can see all of our check-in requirements and arrival tips on our website by scanning the QR code on the screen. Finally, we want to remind you of some helpful check-in resources. The first and most important resource available to you is the Columbia Housing website. All of the information presented here today lives on our website. We encourage students and their families to explore the check-in web pages to learn more about the process. The housing website is an informative resource beyond check-in as well. You can learn more about your building, the policies and procedures for residential students, and other relevant information. We also post copies of student communications to the news section of the website. So parents and families, this means you can read a copy of the housing announcements that your student receives not only during check-in, but throughout the entire academic year. Everything on our website is available without a Columbia login. Another great resource for students is the Columbia Housing Portal. At this point in your journey, you've probably visited the housing portal several times to submit the housing application and to find your room assignment. This information is available only to the student as it requires a Columbia login. The portal has student-specific information related to building preferences, room assignments, arrival times, and more. We also recommend that you follow us on Instagram at Columbia Housing. We are active all year long and share tips and FAQs for check-in, as well as other important housing operations like room selection. For questions and support, we recommend contacting the Hartley Hospitality Desk. During academic periods, the Hartley Desk is staffed 24/7 and can help you with housing questions, room blackouts, and more. Lastly, we'd like to invite you to our next webinar. On August 13, Columbia is hosting another webinar about life in the residence halls. We'll talk about amenities available across all residence halls, as well as other expectations and requirements for residential students. Now, Mia and Justin will kick off the question section.
Hey everyone, so we're here to help answer some of your questions. We've received some through the Q&A. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to submit it there. One of the things that I just want to touch on while y'all work on any questions you might have for us to submit, first, please don't submit questions through the chat. Please submit it through the Q&A. That way everyone's able to see any responses that we submit to it. But most importantly, just be mindful of the fact that your room may not be located in the same building as your check-in location. So as you're making plans to get to campus, just understand that if your check-in location is at, say, Shapiro Hall, but your room is in 47 Claremont, that you will need to you'll need to check in at Shapiro, but then you'll need to get to 47 Claremont so that you can move into your room. So, just please keep that in mind as you're kind of making these plans and kind of putting together how you want to get there. I see Mia's typing a response to this. I'll just go ahead and talk about it as well. We talk about this a lot. We provide a 30-minute time slot for you to move in. That doesn't mean you have to be done in 30 minutes. But what we're trying to do is make sure that everyone has, equal access to elevators. Everyone's able to access the buildings without it kind of being overwhelmed with students at, 11 a.m. and there's a line for the elevator. So naturally, we highly recommend that you select a check-in time slot just so that everyone's able to easily move into a building. But at the same time, it kind of gives you the plan. So if you have an 11:30 a.m. check-in time, you know that from 11:30 to 12, you are going to have an easier time moving into the building, and it kind of helps you set up your plan for the day. I see one that I'll go ahead and answer. Can a student live in the dorms in winter break in the summer session because they are an international student? There are two answers to this. For winter break, yes. When you check in the fall, that is your assignment from the fall semester through the spring semester. So even during winter break, you have access to your room. However, once we complete the spring semester, you are only allowed to stay on campus if you are participating in summer programs, summer session 1, summer session 2, or both of them. We do not allow students to stay on campus outside of that unless they're in a sponsored program. But just in general, know that when you arrive in the fall, that is your room assignment through the spring. But after the spring, you must be in school in order to remain on campus. I've got another question here that I'll go ahead and answer. Will the room be reassigned every year? Yes. When you are assigned a room, that is not your room for your entire time here on campus. So you will be reassigned based on certain things. Naturally, we take certain things into consideration when room assignments are taking place. My colleague Mia is one of the team members that helps oversee that. She does a great job with it, so shout out Mia. Unless you don't like your room assignment, then it's Mia. But no, in general, when you're assigned a room, you do not stay there for the entire time that you're there at Columbia, but you are assigned that room for the duration of the academic year.
So I see a few questions that are very building specific. So I want to just say that if you guys just go to housing, to the housing website, housing.columbia.edu, you can actually see a web page for each of your specific buildings that you're assigned to, or you can get information about the different amenities in the building, whether you want to know if your building has air conditioning or what type of a locker on your doors, or what do I have floor lounges or do I have one large lounge? So I see a few questions about that. So I'd really encourage you to really look on the Columbia Housing website and use those resources that our communications team has worked really hard to put up for you.
And we just had another kind of response come in. Yes, you are able to stay on campus over winter break. It is, but the only caveat is that once we hit spring checkout, you can only stay on campus if you're participating in summer programs. I've seen a couple questions come in regarding storage, so I'll just go ahead and kind of touch on that a little bit. We do not offer on-campus storage. So we do not sit there and say certain rooms we're going to store certain belongings. Once spring checkout arrives, rooms have to be vacated, belongings have to be removed from the rooms, and we do not provide storage options. There are options nearby, some storage locations that you can check out. See if they have options that are within your budget or just kind of what you're looking for. But we do not allow objects to remain in room, and we do not have storage at all for the summer period. All right, I see another question here about parking. Yes, you are able to unload at your building. Naturally, please be mindful of New York City parking laws because everyone is subjected to that. But you are able to kind of pull up, unload. Naturally, don't take a couple hours to try to unload your vehicle. But correct, it is likely going to be difficult to park to find a parking space in front of that building. So just be mindful of that. Please be mindful of the street signs so that you don't end up getting a ticket or the car getting towed because of where the vehicle was.
Justin, the question about items being shipped, as well as items that students and families are bringing with them in person is probably a good one that's helpful to answer in
Okay,
person.
I see it now. Let me just read the question really quick.
Yeah, I mean, the answer, I think, to the last question is yes, you will need your ID in order to access your residence hall.
Yes.
So that's why we instruct everyone to go to their check-in station first.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so to Christina's point, your CUID is the most important thing for you. It will be access for your room. It will be access to campus, to residential halls. So until you have your CUID, you will not be able to enter buildings. So in this particular case, someone's asking, they're going to arrive to campus in a cab from the hotel with 3 to 4 suitcases. Should they leave one person at the building with the bags, and then the student goes to the check-in location to check in and get their ID? That's a great plan, because then you're not if your check-in location is maybe, half a block away from your building, you and your family are not trying to have to bring these bags to the building after you check in. So that's a great plan. Just everyone, please keep in mind that you do need to have your CUID in order to enter the building. Unfortunately, we take security very seriously here. And so if you try to enter the building without the CUID, you will not be able to access your room and you'll be directed to a check-in location. I see a question here about check-in locations. One of the things is that we do have multiple check-in locations on that day, and that's because we're trying to make sure that students are able to check in near their residence hall. One of the things that we always point out, though, is that Hartley Hall is where the Hartley Hospitality Desk is. The hospitality desk is staffed 24/7, 365 days a year. So whenever we send out check-in instructions, what we always do is say, go to your check-in location. But if you arrive outside the hours of our check-in stations, please go to Hartley Hall so that you can complete the check-in process. That's because, again, it's staffed 24/7. So let's say you plan to get there at 12, you have a check-in time, but something happens, you get delayed, you arrive at 4 p.m. and the check-in stations are closed. You're able to go to Hartley Hall so that you can get your CUID, get checked in, and then get moved into your room. All right, I'm not seeing any additional questions come in, so I think that may be it for our Q&A section today. Naturally, if you couldn't think of a question today, but you think of one 5 minutes after we end this, you can send an email to housing@columbia.edu. So I will kick it over to Lorena.
Thank you very much, Justin, and thank you very much, everyone that participated in this webinar. We look forward to welcome you to campus and having you here and enjoying not only Columbia, but New York City as well. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend.